Okay, so we're going to move on now to the main event and a chat with Professor Lynne Cadenhead. I'll just put my phone on silent.
Put mine's on silent.
The last time we were doing this, I was having a chat with Kevin Dorn, I think it was, or some event I was running, and my co-founder Mike Klesler kept trying to...
It was Rob Jones, Fan Joe.
Rob Jones?
He phoned in the middle of it.
Timing was not very good,
Not
I must say.
perfect.
So anyway, I'd like to have a quick question and answer to get us started, Lynne. I haven't told you about this. Okay, so it's just
No pressure now.
So, are you a fan of Iron Brew or Coca-Cola?
Neither.
Neither, okay. Are you a fan of rugby or football?
Football.
Okay. And are you a Twitter fan or a Facebook fan?
Facebook. I hate Twitter.
Okay. Alright then, and what was the other food? So would you like haggis or nips and tatties? Sorry, haggis or, what's the other Scottish
Black
one?
pudding.
Pardon?
Black pudding.
Black pudding.
Neither. I'm vegetarian.
Oh, there we go, so we've learned something interesting already.
Sounding really awkward with these questions.
Tattoos are vegetarian.
No, it was black pudding or haggis.
Yeah. But haggis is a vegetarian, I think.
You can get vegetarian.
Vegetarian haggis. I should have said, if I'd only known, if I'd done my research properly, I would have said vegetarian haggis. Okay, so we're here because Professor, well, I'm just going to call you Lynne, if that's all right.
That's quite all right.
You have a wide range of experience, and I think you have many lessons for entrepreneurs and for investors and many other people to benefit from your wisdom and experience. And I know you've had some highs and some lows as well. So maybe perhaps you could start off by telling us your entrepreneurial story first, or how you got started in that space.
Okay. Well, my maybe a little bit of my background. I was I did science at school, and then I became a fungal molecular geneticist, which is a fancy way for saying that I studied mushrooms. And then I moved into the pharmaceutical industry, so I had quite a lengthy roles in marketing in the pharmaceutical industry and large corporates. Moved back to Scotland. Somebody here said they knew me from Scottish Biomedical. That's right. So that's a blast from the past. Wow. A long time ago. And then I moved into venture capital. So I ran a couple of very early stage technology funds. So the first one was with Scottish Enterprise. And then another one called Far Blue, but it was more kind of photonics, etc. So it was investing round about 200,000 into companies, and then I actually decided that I really enjoyed working in the companies rather than on the companies, and I started to move into roles in the companies rather than investing. And then that gradually moved me into my entrepreneurial journey, which started off with a very bizarre company that I set up. I invented a board game, which was called Scottish Quest, and this was very much a kind of accidental entrepreneurial journey, whereby I'd been in America working for a company, and a lot of people had said to me that they wanted to learn more about Scotland. They wanted to learn about it in a fun and interesting way. How could we do that? I came back home to Scotland. I was going up the ladder into a loft one night to get a game down, and suddenly thought, oh, I'll do a game. So I kind of fell into it. I suppose if I knew then what I know now, I might not have done that. But that's part of the process.
So you weren't put off with your VC experiences, though.
No, not at all. No.
Becoming an entrepreneur, because your story is quite the reverse of most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what might have put you off being an entrepreneur from your VC experiences?
Knowing now what I know, it's a really hard journey. And I think one of the problems that we do not talk enough about in terms of entrepreneurs is how lonely it is. When you're running your own company, even when you've got lots of staff working with you, if you're running your own company, and when things are going wrong, it's really, really lonely, and it's tough. And so I'm really trying, with some of the work that we do with Women's Enterprise Scotland, I'm trying to encourage people to open up and talk a lot more to people and to share that, because there's when it's really, really hard, you need people to be able to share that with. And there's no problem in business that somebody else hasn't been through. Absolutely none. No problem. There's always somebody who can help you. And I think what is really good about Scotland at the moment is the system is really starting to work together to kind of put their arms around people. People are really starting to reach out. And I think as well, in terms of entrepreneurialism, we have to be, we'll come back and talk about this in terms of business angel stuff. We have to be quite careful, because a lot of the economic development agencies and the support that is given to people is, go out and be an entrepreneur, it's great, it's fantastic, and everyone's really tigger-like and excited about it, and it's fantastic, and it's dead easy to start up a business. Anyone can start up a business. Growing the business is the problem. Once they get to that kind of 18 months, the real pressures start to go in. So we have to. It's this kind of combination of, we have to be very supportive to people and encouraging of people who want to become entrepreneurs, but at the same time you've got to be really realistic with them and say, the people that you're seeing in terms of Brewdog and Skyscanner and Evangel and all that kind of stuff. It is possible, but that's the exception, not the rule. And just getting people to be realistic, and also realistic about the time it will take, the money it will take, how hard they will have to work, how lonely they will feel. But then by saying, once you have that product or service in your hand that you have created and you hold it in your hand for the first time, that beats everything, and it's an absolutely amazing feeling. So it's that kind of combination of motivating and encouraging, but being realistic with people.
So that's the life of an entrepreneur. Would you say that an angel investor has similar stresses and challenges?
There'll be different stresses and challenges. I think, it depends, in terms of being an angel investor, I suppose it kind of depends in a way your route into this. If you're an angel investor who's been an entrepreneur yourself and, run this company, I think one of the things you have to be really, really careful about when you start to do angel investment is you're not running the company. It's not your company. But there's a natural tendency for people to want to really tell the entrepreneur what to do, and it's a bit more of a case of guiding them. I think that's the main thing to be really, really careful about. And I suppose, and again, if you've come maybe from a large corporate environment, going into business angeling is quite different, because really you're getting involved in such an early stage that it's a hands-on role. You have to get much more hands-on and involved, and you've really got to look at costs and things like that very, very carefully. I mean, literally, people sometimes will not have the money to be able to buy offices or buy flights to places. They can't afford things. Every single penny is a prisoner in the startup stage. So different stresses, different things. I suppose one of the main issues for everyone, and I say to people who I do quite a lot of work with boards and governance of companies, and for angel investors, I would be saying, it's there is a process of trust and engendering trust that you have to go through in terms of bringing both sides together. But really, a question that has to be asked all the time is, what is the chief executive of this organisation hiding from you? Because they are always hiding something. Because that's kind of human nature. They want to be able to present really good messages and really good stories to you, and they want you to pat them on the back and show that they're doing good, and show that they're investing, but they're always hiding something because they're scared. And this is it's a process of coming closer and closer together to to get that level of trust between the investor and the entrepreneur, so that they are willing and able to come to you as early as possible with problems that they have, because they will always have problems. But what you're wanting them is to make sure that they're coming to you with a problem saying, we can't meet cash flow in 4 months' time because of X, Y, and Z, not coming to you to saying, we can't meet our payroll at the end of the at the end of this month in 2 weeks' time. So it's engendering that process of trust, but also kind of being slightly distant, so you can take this helicopter look and helicopter view and look at everything. That makes sense.
So the relationship between the investor and the CEO or the director is really important. Then this kind of emotional intelligence is often talked about before as the number one characteristic in an entrepreneur, rather than some uber science, technology, or other. And of course, this is where you, in the very beginning, you want to make sure that you get involved with a company or with an entrepreneur that you can communicate with. Yeah. And is that easy to find entrepreneurs who you can get on with, or is it a challenge?
It depends again very much on the individual. I tend to do my business angel investing on my own. A lot of people said to me, why did you become an entrepreneur? And actually, quite frankly, it's because I don't like people telling me what to do. I do kind of quite like being in charge. I've learned to stop a bit, but it very much depends on the individual. I need to be able to like the people that I work and trust the people that I work with. And the way that I do, if I come across a really interesting business, I'll probably just work with them, for free for a couple of months. Look at their business plan, sit down, have a chat with them, look at their board structure, do a bit of market research, have a lot of meetings, see actually if there's any value that I can bring to them in that process, which makes me feel good about it, and see how they respond to me in requests for information. I would say one of the most important traits you're looking for in an individual is not necessarily just if it's a great product. Obviously you need to be the product. You need to have the information about the market. But is the individual coachable? Are they prepared to listen to you? If you give them advice, are they prepared to listen to it and digest it and think about it and go away and come back? Because if they're not, they don't know all the answers. They shouldn't really know all the answers. But, the majority of people who are supporting them and advising them, do have a lot of experience. But if they're not willing to listen to any guidance or input, and at least come back with a rational explanation of why they don't want to do things, they're going to be too difficult, to deal with. And I actually had that with a lady last week. I'd been working with her for a couple of years to build her business and scale it up. And she had an issue with something. I said, look, just try and win the war. Don't look at the battle. Don't do anything about this. Whatever you do, don't do this, because it will come back and bite you in the bottom. She decided that this was what she wanted to do. Sure enough, it came back and bit her in the bottom. A couple of weeks later, and this wasn't just a one-off. This was the third or fourth time that she'd actually done this. So I eventually had to say, great. I'm not going to be involved with you anymore. Wish you all the best, but move on, because, quite frankly, I'm not wasting my time with that. I know it sounds a bit harsh, but you do have to be. You have to make these hard decisions sometimes.
So that business might have been a very, possibly lucrative business, but you decided that the relationships and the fit was more important than the potential return. Yeah. Of course, it might give the return. Who knows? It might give you a return anyway. But so you're gonna save your energies and find
Yeah, I
someone.
mean, I'll still keep the the stake in the company. I'm not going to do anything awkward or anything like that. If anything comes along, but it's not that I'm going to be giving her above and beyond the call of duty in this process, because there's another company that's come along which is a fantastic fantastic opportunity, really 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 early stage, can transform telemedicine for oncology. And this lady sets everything as diligent. She takes notes. She goes away. She researches it. She comes back. She asks questions. It's completely different, and I just have such you get this kind of gut instinct about people.
So this is one of the things that we're saying is necessary for people who want to be angel investors. It's not perfect from the start. It's like anything, you need to get to know what entrepreneurs are like, and you need to work with a lot of entrepreneurs before you have that objectivity and you're able to see things in perspective and spot the signs. But of course, if we can learn from each other and share the knowledge and the character, the signs, as it were, then that would obviously help us all to make better decisions in the future. So what would be the main reason why you would recommend anyone to go into angel investing?
It's interesting. We were across in Italy a few weeks ago doing some business angel training for a whole group of new women who are looking to invest across there. And they have quite a different environment there, because the Italian kind of structure and process is that they will always invest in their family first. They will always support their families, and they were really reluctant to start going into other businesses and invest in it. But there's lots of reasons. I mean, it's great fun. You network. I think one of the ways that I really like it is I get involved in so many other businesses that I know nothing about. I learn so much about other industries, other sectors. I meet so many interesting people that I would never have the opportunity, and that really energizes me and enlivens me. And then I would always say 80 if not 90% of one business is just the same as the next. So the fundamentals of working in any business. I mean, I can work in a creative business, and then I'm doing some investment in an oncology business. Then I'm doing investment, and my main area of focus now is cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. The fundamentals of all the businesses are exactly the same, and the detail is where I get enlivened and excited about in terms of understanding different areas. So it's the learning, it's the connections, it's all these kind of things. But the one thing I do want to stress is, we do talk about making a lot of money, but again, these are the rarities in terms of business angel investing. So I think if you're purely going into it to say this investment, these guys say I'm going to invest 200,000 in them, and they say they're going to be generating 5 million turnover within 2 years. They're not. Think again. It will be multiple rounds of investment that you need to do. I mean, Mary Jane, you'll probably have more statistics as well, but I always look at investment. Say if I'm going to put 20,000 or 50,000 into it, I know in my head that's at least 3 times, if not 4 times. So 20,000 is not 20,000, it's 80,000. It's over a period of time, but it's a lot more than you think. And of course, the money, your asset is a liquid for a long period of time, so you need to be, happy that it's tied up. But when the good deals come through, they are fantastic, and they more than compensate for everything else. But I think you have to figure in: do I want to spend time with these people? Do I think this is a great opportunity? What can I bring to the business? In terms of contacts, am I actually going to spend time and champion these people? Am I going to mentor these individuals? I think you really have to think through all these things rather than just, I'm going to write a check for 20,000. So, I mean, Mary Jane, you'll know how much time, angels spend with very early stage companies.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Some spend a lot more than others, don't they?
Yes.
Some people choose to invest through a syndicate with an office, so they're delegating that side of things. So the entertainment is very much at a distance rather than hands-on, which is what you've just been describing.
Mm. So relationships are really important. Also, making sure that you don't overcommit with one business, but you retain some dry powder or some money for follow-on funding. Have you seen any colleagues or any other angel investors make mistakes that you can tell us about, or?
Probably not wise that I share, particular mistakes. It's a very close-knit community in Scotland. So, and actually, on that is something that you do have to be careful about. I'm in quite a unique position because I've done so many roles, so I have seen all this from different angles. And what actually really, really, really frustrates me about some of the business angel syndicates is, and not syndicates, but some of the business angel workings in Scotland, is that when an individual sends a plan into somebody, that's confidential. It's really confidential. This is somebody's dreams that you have in your hands. And then I've seen it happen so many times when I go to another organisation, they say, yeah, we've already seen that plan. And I said, well, you shouldn't have been sent that plan. Yeah, we know all about it. So-and-so told me all about this. And, there's been something derogatory said about the person. That's not right. And so I think you've got to respect confidentiality of the individuals. As I say, this is someone's dreams that you have in your hands. And you can help them realise those dreams. And angel investment, is grow along with your guidance and support. So I just, my rant over.
Sure. And, well, I'm glad I asked the question actually, because that's something that entrepreneurs are is a real concern for them. They don't know how much information to tell a potential investor. Should they ask for a non-disclosure agreement to be signed? It can be a real barrier to a lot of entrepreneurs, and we do talk about that. And so I'm in complete agreement. We need to endear win their trust and respect.
It's a two-way process. You need to win, their trust. They need to win your trust, and it's all these different things. And NDAs, yes, they are important. Sometimes people just can't sign them because if they actually sign them, they'll be breaking some kind of terms elsewhere. So it is a bit of a kind of give and take. And sometimes there has to be giving a little to kind of get back. It's just a process. Well, one other thing area I do think is incredibly important is boards for early stage companies. And the reason I say this in particular is entrepreneurs set up their company and they're told to become a director and set up this company, and they do that, and then they get a board round them. The vast majority of entrepreneurs do not have a clue about actually what being a director is all about. They don't understand their fiduciary responsibilities in terms of directors' requirements, and I have to say a very large majority of people who join boards of entrepreneurial companies do not understand them either. And they actually sit on the boards and say, I'm here on the board, I'm the chairman, this is what we're going to do. But actually, that's just about, contravening every, bit of the Directors Act. So people really do need to understand, the key roles and responsibilities of a director. And we've had so many incidences of entrepreneurs who have actually lost their company because of overbearing chairmen, people not understanding what the roles and the responsibilities of the directors and the board of the company is, and also from investors, quite frankly, bullying some individuals in companies and saying, you know, things had to be a certain way. And, you know, this is another real area of interest in mine. People need to understand, and if you know, we can maybe talk about that kind of thing in more detail later. And also, you know, voting rights and things like that. Entrepreneurs don't really actually understand that even if they own 50% of their company, they don't have control over their company anymore. They don't understand. So you need to have these honest conversations and make sure everyone understands where they are and where the process is going. It's hard.
So this is angel investing is a learning experience for the angel investor as well as the entrepreneur, and of course one thing you might learn in one company could help you in another. And I remember one story, a VC was at a board meeting and with investors of Kayak, and they learned that Kayak were getting $400,000 to dominate the American market, and this VC went to the board of Skyscanner and said, okay guys, let's concentrate in Europe, because this inside knowledge and other, you know, if they'd gone head to head in America, then we might not have Skyscanner as a unicorn. So it's just there's unexpected nuggets of information that you can glean from just having these conversations, and it's useful knowledge that can be applied in different areas. So you're very active in abroad and trying to help people become angel investors. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is an initiative, well, a couple of initiatives that we're involved in at the moment through Women's Enterprise Scotland. We are leading in terms of access to finance programme, which is encouraging business angels throughout Europe, female business angels to invest in female businesses. So we're really trying to grow that kind of area. We're working in countries Cyprus, Greece, Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria. Mary Jane did some work with us recently. So that's very interesting, and Italy as well. One thing I would like to point out in terms of entrepreneurship, and obviously it would be remiss of me not to, as chair of Women's Enterprise Scotland, is one of my key areas of work over the next year is to try and educate people as to the differences between female-led businesses and male-led businesses, and female entrepreneurs and male-led entrepreneurs. And in particular, as business angels, one of the key things is to be aware that women start up their businesses with 1/3 of the capital that men do. Women do not ask for enough money. They're consistently undercapitalising their businesses. And we need to work on their kind of financial confidence and their financial wellness and things like that. But I encourage you, when you're looking at female-led businesses, to really stand back and say, are they asking for enough money? Because they will not be asking for enough money. So that's one key thing, if you can kind of, you know, take away here. The other key message is that women's businesses grow more slowly than male-led businesses. Very often male-led businesses will go like that, then they might go like that. Female-led businesses tend to be much more sustainable. They take longer to get there, but they last longer, and their survival rate is generally speaking longer. Principal reasons for this are people will look at females and say they're risk averse. Actually, what they are is they have advanced risk awareness. What they're doing is they're assessing so many more parameters. And if you look at lending for females, you know, from the banks, females are a much better bet in terms of lending and repayment of lending because of their risk awareness. So we need to, so if you can kind of factor these things in, there's been quite a lot of research done as well when investors are challenging businesses. What they tend to do to male entrepreneurs is they ask them promotion questions. You know, this is great, this is fantastic, how are you going to grow this, what are you going to do? But when they're looking at female businesses, they're asking them prevention questions. They ask them to kind of minimise the risk even more. So we're actually going to be working on a toolkit with Scottish Edge to start to educate people. But just think about these things as you're looking at proposals. Ideally, what you're really looking for is, you know, a combination of a male and a female, you know, in terms of a company. That's kind of ideal.
So that's just what I was going to ask you about the makeup of a startup founding team. And ideally, it's more than one person and mixed sexes. Can you tell us any examples of good teams that you've seen, or any good characteristics of founding teams? Are there good signs for investors to spot?
Again, it's very difficult to say. Very much it comes down to kind of, you know, gut instinct. If I'm, you know, looking at people who are, you know, teams of people, you're probably looking for someone, you know, one who kind of, you know, push ahead, and one who maybe kind of holds them back, you know, one who's, you know, really visionary, and one who's a bit more kind of, you know, cautious in things. It very much depends. You know, there's no particular things that you can look for, but it's more along the lines of, you know, are they coachable? Do you actually get a really good feeling from people?
Yeah, it's just subconsciousness is very powerful.
Yeah, it is. It's really powerful. Mary Jane, do you have anything to add on that in particular?
No, I think having more than one person is important. Partly, we're talking about the loneliness.
Yeah.
If there is a founding team, then you can keep each other going.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I've seen companies looking for investment, and the organisation chart has lots of boxes on it, and well, who are these people? Oh, I know who's going to do that, I know who's going to do that, but they haven't started working together, and there's a big risk there then from an investment perspective. They might think they're the right people, but that hasn't been tested. So really to have more than one person, I would say, is important.
That's the story of the League of Entrepreneurs Meetup group as well, because I was doing it all on my own and I got a bit fed up. Jane gave me some encouragement and started helping me out, and you know, we just celebrated our 3rd year anniversary as well, the League of Entrepreneurs, and then when we
Not like that.
and we wouldn't have the Angel Investor Meetup group if I hadn't said to Jane, "Are you going to help me with this?" So that was one of the first things I had, because working together is always a good experiment. And obviously, ideally, you start off with something small before you jump into a big commitment. And I think, as you said before, you know, you just start mentoring entrepreneurs and before you make any fast decisions about whether to invest in them.
Yeah, I mean, I would really take it, you know, quite slowly to start. You know, I mean, you know, as business angels, you know, potentially about to invest in companies, you know how long and how hard you've had to work to make this, you know, to make this money that you're going to give to someone else. So you need to be really sure that you're making the right, you know, decisions, you know, and of course things will go wrong, but I would just encourage people to work with people, give them a bit of mentoring, give a bit of time, you know, couple of months, 2-3 months or something like that. That's the way I do it, that's the way that works for me. Everybody will be different, and some people will want to invest, you know, 2, 3, 4 people into a company. Some people will just want to do their own thing. But just, you know, I would just be taking it slowly and not jumping in, you know, too quickly. Just work with the people.
So if we're not, I'm sure many of us in this room are already doing this, mentoring. You know, there's a few people that we're encouraging and supporting. But if we're not doing that, then because it's going to take such a long period of time, there's a call to action to actually just find some entrepreneurs that you can get to know and encourage and motivate. With no commitments, you don't need to tell them what your agenda is or what what might happen in the future, but it's just getting to know, going for a dance. It's so the sooner we start that, the better.
Yeah. And in terms of, you know, mentoring and sort of, you know, the mentor and the mentee, again, I also caution people to be careful. There's certain things that you need to do in the mentor-mentee process. So, for example, if you're meeting people, a young entrepreneur, meet in a neutral place. Don't be meeting in a pub. Don't be meeting, in your house or their house. This is actually quite important in terms of establishing a relationship and establishing comfort and security. Set expectations. The entrepreneur might be coming to you thinking that you're going to respond to every email that they send them within 10 minutes. So set the boundaries up and say, I'll look at this once a week. I'll have a call with you once a week, because it's really important to set those expectations, because that will set the whole tone for the relationship.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're perhaps ready to open the floor up to any questions and maybe have a discussion about some of these points. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask? Natalie?
Hello. I work in the arts and commercial theatre producing, which tends to be quite high risk, high reward in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any advice that you can give in approaching investors with projects like that tend to have a more, like a high risk sort of outcome? Like, is there a certain way that you change that as opposed to something that might look a bit more reliable?
They're all high risk.
Yeah.
Honestly, all investments are high risk. You're probably nearer to market and revenue generation than a biotech company. So actually, it's less risky in a way.
Oh.
Yeah, I think your key the key work that you need to do is do your research and target people, whether it's investors or entrepreneurs. Make sure you go into the right people. Crowdfunding for these kind of initiatives is actually really quite good as well. Depends what kind of thing that you're looking to do.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, great.
It's a very long lead time. We collected, I think, about
£75.
£75 on a film we invested in 15 years ago.
I knew the other day.
So, but I have a question, Lynne. Sorry, is that okay?
Sure.
I'm intrigued by the money and making lots of money. I mean, it's all very interesting, but I think what's both as an entrepreneur, but also as an investor, the value of getting involved in the business is what I'm curious to understand more. So when you're looking at the business, are you going in because you have money to invest, or is it because you think you can add something and the money would be a byproduct?
I do both. So there's some businesses that I'm really interested in, but they're not suitable for business angel investment. But I like the people and I want to help them, and I just help them, and that's my kind of feel-good factor. There's other businesses whereby I do a combination of. There's some businesses that I've just invested in, and other businesses I do a combination of a little bit of investment and a little bit of sweat equity, in terms of they maybe need a lot more time. So, for example, one of the companies I'm involved with is Emotional Sciences, and I actually spend quite a lot of time in that company, and I have a very significant stake in that company. I've invested some money, but I actually have a really significant stake because I'm spending a lot of time in that company, helping the entrepreneur build it. So it's a combination of both.
And if I may have a follow-up question, please. You were talking about boards. How do you weed out the charlatans you were alluding to? But there are plenty of people who would like to feed off enterprises, and when you're investing, are you just investing individual, or are you looking at the board, or are you helping to bring in the board, or what's the role as an investor?
I'm quite early stage, so I tend to invest in people that is maybe an entrepreneur or two or three entrepreneurs who are co-founding with some other people. What I encourage people to do is set up an advisory board initially, rather than a full kind of fiduciary responsibility board. That way you can start to see how the entrepreneurs work with other people kind of, outside. But very much I see my role there as helping bring in the right people, to build the advisory board, and you see how it works, and then building the boards around them as well. And I have decided now, and I'm going to pretty much insist that people that come onto boards in future have been through a kind of governance course that I work with, because I've seen so many problems and so many bad things happen to entrepreneurs, that not companies that I've been involved in, but governance is really important, and it's going to become even more important as well. So the role is to look at the gaps within the organisation and build a board around the people that fill the gaps, and on the understanding that the people who are in that board role are willing at this stage to roll up their sleeves and do the dirty work as well. They're not just turning up to board meetings having not read their papers. They're actually really actively involved in it. We all know that boards are supposed to be strategic, and they are, but at this stage of a company, it's a bit kind of fluid and flexible. They need to be involved in it. But it's about tapping into your contacts and your networks, and bringing the right people to support the company. Because they won't have, the vast majority of times, they won't have financial expertise. They definitely will not have marketing expertise if they're a technology company, because they're all rubbish at it. Probably don't have HR, legal, that kind of stuff. So it's trying to do your best to plug the gaps that you need.
Okay. Roddy Forford. Just enhancing on that, do you have a sort of pre-investment framework that you work through? Things that you've got set that if they don't tick these boxes, then it's not going to be an investment. It's going to be maybe somebody you can help, or is there something there that you think about, or is it just the gut feel?
Again, I mean, it's more gut feel, and my kind of pre-investment process is working with them for a couple of months, and I'll know by the end of it. And I'm very clear about what I'm going to do, but I'll know by the end of it, if there's a market there, if there's a product, if there's a kind of product market fit. I'll have a bit of an idea of the kind of amount of money that they'll need. I'll have a bit of a sense of, where have they been in the community, who have they spoken to, what have they done. I've got a bit of a say. I would never go out and ask anybody about it, because this is the confidentiality thing. But you will be amazed what people tell you. So that is my process. And if they've kind of, sometimes they might have been through. I remember there was a company that I was through, actually Scottish Biomedical, a long time ago. Nobody was touching it. Nobody would invest in it. It was an amazing company. Nobody would invest in it. One organisation eventually invested in it about 3 or 4 years ago. An angel group, and this company is absolutely flying now. But sometimes, companies don't get investment just because it doesn't fit somebody else's portfolio. Faces don't fit. Somebody said something about them. So I think you just have to kind of look at everything with a pinch of salt as well. But it's all about the people. I mean, the model that I use is the 4Ms model. What I look at is the matter, which is the intellectual property and the technology of the company. That's the kind of bones of it. I look at the marketing, the markets and the marketing. I look at the money, and then I look at the management. But the only thing that really matters is the management. And that's everything else will fall into place if you have the right people, or if the people can be guided and supported. I think you'd probably echo that as well, wouldn't you, Mary Jane?
And then the only thing I'd add is some of the angel groups have investment criteria, so that is similar, I think, to what you were alluding to.
Yeah.
And that's published on their website, so as the entrepreneurs can see what the
Where
that
they are
particular
positioning
angel group
themselves.
is looking for. And often it's sector related.
Yeah.
So some groups will invest in certain sectors and others are more generalist. And size of deal as well, and ability to follow on. And so I think that those are the sorts of things that investors think about.
So, for example, I would never invest in a biotech company alone. I mean, that would just be absolutely bonkers, you know, because this is going to need, you know, tens and tens of millions before you get anything. And, you know, even with the ones that I'm doing, I mean, your investments are, you know, liquid for, you know, a good number of years, but, you know, I'm kind of getting I'm the wrong side of 50 now. I don't want to be having it liquid for that length of time. You know, and also, I mean, sometimes you have to just kind of say, I've done enough now. You know, I think it's useful when you're starting out to set aside the amount that you think you want to invest in a year. And, you know, that is it, and you don't do any more. And sometimes you have to stop because, quite frankly, you need some of this money recycled back out, you know, to do other things.
So for people who've never done an angel investment before, can you maybe give them a guide into how much money is required? You know, what's to get started?
Again, it ranges so much. You might come across somebody who wants to set up, you know, bee farms or something like that, and you're really interested in that, and it's been a passion of yours. You don't want to go down that line, you don't want to do that, but you're really interested. And they might be saying they need 25,000 to be able to do something. You know, this is a business angel investment if you put money into that company and allows them to buy all the equipment, you know, etc. that they need. You might do that with 5 other people. However, you might have another company coming along which is, you know, looking for, you know, 500,000 to be able to develop, you know, a new kind of, you know, artificial intelligence software or something like that. You know, but the one thing that you would say is to be careful to set milestones and agree the milestones with the company. You need to it's a fine balance between tranching an investment into a company. You know, if you're going to agree 500,000, you don't want to be saying to the investor, well, I'll give you 50,000 and then come back once you've done this, and then do this and come back with another 50,000, because the poor entrepreneur will be running around all the time ticking boxes for you and actually losing the focus on growing the business. So it's a fine balance. But you might be saying to them, okay, the total round is 500,000 here. Collectively, we're going to give 200,000 just now, and this will take you 9 months, and in that period, we want you to do this. You know, so you it's all about, you know, kind of managing the risk there a little bit.
And on that question, James, the important thing from the angel investor's perspective is they need to benefit from the portfolio effect. And they might be really, really lucky and have one investment in ICS and then they're smiling. But on the whole, that's not how it happens. They will have to invest across a portfolio, which would typically be at least 10 investments. So when you're working out how much money do I need to set aside, you have to start, okay, I need a portfolio, and then you're working out how much you're putting in at the beginning, and there will be follow-on rounds. And so the follow-on rounds are never at quite the same level as the initial investment, but there will be several of them. So in my experience, you have some very, very wealthy individuals, but probably to start angel investing and with the objective of getting that portfolio effect, you're probably looking at needing to have a pot of about 100,000, and there is that requirement anyway legally that you have to be a high net. The high net worth individual parameters give you an indication of how much money you have to be able to afford to lose. And I think I can't remember what that level is.
I think it's about 100,000.
I think that's one of the requirements. The other one is to be a member for 6 months.
But that gives you a benchmark because they're saying the law's establishing a level. This is what you can expect to have to lose, and that then also is, well, kind of how much do I need to do this? Is the flip side of that. So it's a six-figure number to be able to get that portfolio effect, which you really need to be able to benefit from.
But that's not necessarily saying it's a six-figure, a six-figure sum that you're going to invest in 1 year. It might be over,
that
a
would
few
be
years,
over a
but
decade
absolutely,
possibly.
yeah. So that's the
That's
kind of
right.
quantum. But portfolio theory says 14, 16. Ideally, that's what you're going to get. I've got about 14 investments at the moment. I've had more before, but I have about 14 investments just now. I think one of them will do really, really well, and another one is kind of looking okay. The rest of them are kind of bumbling along at the moment, and some of them are really early stage, and it's far too early to tell.
So can you explain what was the rule that you mentioned a minute ago?
Portfolio theory.
No, the 14.
Four M's.
Oh, the four M's. So this is just a kind of model that I have, and I think it works for investors and it works for entrepreneurs as well. Just these are the areas that you need to look at in the business. It's just a simple way to remember it. So first M is the matter, which is the technology and the intellectual property and the product. The next M is the kind of markets, which is anything to do with markets and marketings and route to market, all this kind of stuff. The next M is the money. So what's the money that they need in the business? And coming into money is anything and everything to do with debt, equity, everything to do with your margins, everything to do with that. And then the final M is the management. So that's looking at the entrepreneurs, looking at the board structure, looking at the key hires that they need to do. And sometimes I make it into a 6Ms model by adding in milestones. Another M is milestones, because that's actually really important from an investment perspective. And the other M, which really is important and probably should be separated out quite carefully, is model for a business model. You're really sort of assessing the model. It's just an easy way, so if I'm ever asking entrepreneurs any questions, matter, markets, model, margins, money, and you can kind of take everything off there.
Great. Any more questions? Oh, Karina?
How do you find businesses, or do they find you?
It's a bit of both things, but it's just about connecting with other people. So, as I say, I've got some really fantastic opportunities that are very early stage at the moment. There's a brilliant opportunity for a female-led business in Edinburgh that is looking for an additional 100,000 to go into its funding round at the moment, which could be a very interesting opportunity for people. And I've got it's just tapping into other people and going to a bit. This kind of event is so important. You just don't know where people are going to come from.
Okay.
So then you mentioned milestones.
Yes.
When do you pull out and when do you cash out?
Again, very difficult. I think there is a tendency for people who've invested in businesses, which is understandable, to keep piling money in and keep piling money in and keep piling money in. I think we all have to be a bit, and I'm guilty of this myself, I think we all have to be a bit more careful of stopping sooner rather than later if the writing is on the wall. There's no point piling and piling and piling money in. But having said that, you look at some of the success stories, in particular in terms of, FanDuel, for example, when they started out, they weren't going anywhere, nothing was happening, people were getting ready to pull out, and then they changed direction, went in a completely different direction, then they went stratospheric. So it's being aware and trying to kind of read the signs. So for example, I think one of the easiest signs of understanding that a company is in trouble is when they don't start supplying their accounts on a monthly basis and they don't start supplying the information. it's obvious they're struggling, they're hiding from you again. And that's when, you know, your element of trust will become really important in reaching out to them. It's impossible to say. It's really impossible to say. Do you have anything to add on that, Mary Jane?
I think it is an area that is certainly very challenging, and one of the things that makes it particularly challenging is that when things get difficult, the lack or inadequately aligned interests come into play. And one of the things about the investors carrying on supporting businesses, one of the reasons the syndicates do that is they kind of don't want to be holding, or whatever it is.
They don't want to have a company failing on their watch.
Because that's it. They don't want to be the ones responsible. So we'll put a bit more money in, it might be okay. So there's that, because the reputational side of things.
Yeah.
There's also, I mean, ICS is an example. That company was on the verge of collapse when Parr rescued them for £250,000. That was the nature of their investment 5 years ago, and now that company sold for 35. But it was on the verge of collapse, and the company was founded in the 19th century. Okay, so it's, I mean, yeah.
So
Somebody was giving up, and somebody else saw the opportunity. So as a group of investors, you're really reluctant to pull the plug because you think there's something in this, you know.
Yeah.
And a story like ICS makes it even scarier to pull the plug on an opportunity.
And you know, Touched by Onyx is quite good an example of that as well. I mean, I was the first chairman of Touched by Onyx, and it was literally started up with, you know, two man, or, you know, one man and a woman and a dog in the cupboard in the hospital down in East Lothian somewhere. And it was a very, very, you know, it was, Lynne, can you go in and look at this company and see if there's something there? Because we have no idea if there's something there in this company. And I must admit, I went in and I worked with the guy and I developed this business model. And to look back at the business model now, it would be utterly, you know, nonsensical. But, you know, it was after 6 months we said, well, you know, there's something here, we're not quite sure what it is. But after about, you know, 4 or 5 years, you know, some people were saying to me, we're not really quite sure about this company yet. And then, you know, sort of, you know, 6, 7 years down the line, you know, it was an absolutely phenomenal exit for the business angels. Yeah. You know, but that was started off with 25,000.
Come back to the milestones. This doesn't sound like milestones to me. Milestones is what you set out at the beginning. In X time, I'm going to be here. But you're kind of like, where are we today? Where are we today?
Yeah.
So what? Which one is it?
Sorry, remind me of the question again. Sorry.
It's the milestones.
Yeah.
At which point do you pull out, and which point do you cash out? It was my question, but it sounds as if, well, you don't have a fixed time frame, or maybe you do, but you adjust the time frame as you're going along based on what's.
Yeah.
And do you measure? You have the 5, 4, and 5 and 6 and do you measure? Do you have KPIs that you keep to? Or do you think that people will always twist the statistics anyway, so that's not...
You know, I think, you know, it's probably a bit unfair to say that people are going to twist the statistics all the time, you know.
Because you mentioned trust was important.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, it's like, you know, if you put yourself in the entrepreneur's shoes, you know, they are trying to build a business, you know, they are doing everything and, you know, making the tea and cleaning the floor and all that kind of stuff because they have to. These guys are probably working 80 hours a week in order to be able to push things through. So there's a lot, and they're doing things that they have, you know, no understanding of, you know, as well. You know, it's totally new to them. Some of them would never have known what a company was or a director, all this kind of stuff. So there's got a lot, you know, so they've got a lot on their plate. So I suppose what I'm saying is, you know, you've got to be firm with the entrepreneurs, but you've got to understand, you know, the difficulties and pressures that you're going through. So coming back to milestones, I mean, what I mean about milestones is, you know, they are going to achieve X in the business by 6 months, and it's going to take them, you know, £20,000 to do that. At 9 months, they will have delivered X, and it's going to take them, you know, an additional £25,000 to do that. And that's what they will plan out. But I suppose what I do when I look at what they say are their milestones and their amount of money and their projections, I always double the amount of time it's going to take them to do it, because it always takes much longer. I double the amount of money, and I half what they think they're going to project in terms of sales. And that is my way of looking at if they are going to, if they can have that sensitivity analysis, which is very kind of quite basic. But if you can apply that sensitivity analysis and they still look as though they're in kind of profit, or just about there, I would probably say these kind of things are okay. But the milestones, I really do think the milestones are very important, because it keeps everyone on target, because you need to be, you kind of need to keep the entrepreneurs on their toes. You can't be too nice to them, because if you get too nice to them, things kind of get a bit, they get a bit relaxed. So the milestones are important in terms of driving ahead the progress of the company. But again, I'm really sorry that there's no kind of hard and fast rules or decisions. It really comes down to what feels right.
So a lot of people talk about an exit in 3 to 5 years. How realistic is that?
Not realistic at all. No, it's not.
I'm not sure that a lot of people talk about that in angel investing.
No, it's not. You're at the earliest, you'll be looking at 7 years. You're more like 10 years, 10 to 12.
7 to 10.
Is that a set return on investment, possibly?
What was that, sorry?
Is it return on investment? Is it a set return on investment? So 3 times your investment, and then you're out, regardless?
What are you asking if that is an approach to do? I mean,
Yes.
you could look at it that way, but again, the average return on kind of funds, angel funds and sort of Amadeus and things like that, it's around about 3 times return, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, a lot of the more standard angel syndicate investments, those investors are happy with a 3x return, especially when they've had the tax breaks along the line. It's not so much a target as that's a good exit for angels, and you would never limit your upside. So you're not going to, if you can possibly avoid it, you're not going to say, I'll exit when I get 3x on the whole with angel investing, because it's just so risky. It's because it's very early stage. So that's why you need the portfolio, because you know that half the investments are going to fail completely, but you don't know which half.
It would be nice.
Well, that's where the Star Race mission is, to try and de-risk that process.
I think the thing is as well, you either have to go into something that you have a lot of experience, or are you really interested in, or you're interested in finding out something more about this area, or you think it's got great potential for the future. It depends on each individual's drivers and what you want to do.
Okay, I think we're time to call it there, and of course Lynne will hopefully hang around so we can ask questions off camera and over some wine. And
Oh God, I forgot about that.
So we're not going to put anything online without everybody's approval. Well, certainly without Lynne's approval. You get first
Especially
refusal.
after GDPR.
So thank you so much, Lynne. And everybody else.